Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today inshallah we are going to discuss about regulation and supervision of Islamic financial institutions. So among the important features that distinguish Islamic financial system from the conventional system are the regulations and the governance mechanisms of the Islamic financial system. So, of course, due to certain unique characteristics of Islamic financial systems, so the Islamic financial system are in need on a specific regulations and governance in order to cater these specific or unique characteristics. Legal and regulatory practices governing Islamic financial institutions are varied across countries. Some countries are operating its Islamic financial system by adopting the dual financial system, in which the Islamic financial system is operating in parallel, similarly to the conventional finance. And a few others, such as Iran and Sudan, these countries adopted a single full-fledged Islamic financial system. On the other hand, some countries such as Saudi Arabia and Egypt did not have any specific Islamic banking laws enacted to govern the specificities or the uniqueness of the Islamic financial institutions. So in their case, the Islamic financial institutions use same law in order to govern their practices, which is similar to the conventional banks. Countries which adopted a single full-fledged Islamic financial system, such as Sudan and Iran, have also adopted the Islamic accounting standards, established requirements for their Sharia supervisory boards, and put in place supervisory framework which is specific for Islamic financial institutions. So the question arises here is, what is the rationale for having a specific regulations for Islamic finance? According to Chaprahan theory, so there are at least 4 reasons why we are in need of a specific regulations to cater the Islamic financial systems. So the first reason is related to the systematic objectives or systemic considerations. A key systemic consideration is the risk of contagion, whereby if one financial institution fails, the sustainability of others, which means the other financial institution is also threatened. So regulations is needed in order to maintain an efficient payment system and mitigate the risk of disruption of payments. So regulators also often have to manage a delicate balance between promoting economic development, which normally requires a more aggressive risk-taking environment, and at the same time or ensuring the stability of the financial system, which may require more conservative approach towards risk-taking. So the regulators have to balance between the needs whether to promote economic development or to ensure the stability of the financial systems. So in the case of Islamic financial systems, so it is important to have a specific regulation in order to cater the uniqueness of Islamic financial systems, so that it will not create any contagion effect, especially when one financial institution fails. So if the country have an adequate or a good regulations, so it will not affect the other Islamic financial institution. The second reason why we need specific regulations for Islamic finance is because in order to protect the interest of depositors and also the investment account holders. So in many jurisdictions, the existing regulations do not cater for the distinct contractual rights and risk profiles between normal depositors and investment account holders. Yeah. So in Islamic financial system, so we have two different type of depositors. So the first one is normal depositors, and the second one is the investment account holders. Yeah. So investment account holders, normally the contracts, the products or the deposit account is offered based on the contract of mudarabah. So emphasis should be given to the investment account holder, because in the case of losses based on the contract of mudarabah, so the investment account holders shall bear the loss of the investment. So that's why we are in need of a specific regulation to cater this, especially in terms of the system. The Islamic financial system should be more transparent in terms of its disclosure of activities. So in contrast to the conventional banks, there are no investment account holders, or there's no mudarabah contracts. So that's why they did not have or required a more transparent disclosure regime as compared to the Islamic financial system. So that's why Islamic investment account holders in the case of Islamic financial system expect transparency from Islamic financial institution, especially in terms of the features, the contracts they enter into, and the appropriate recourse if the contract is breached. Yeah? So the investment account holders should have some rights in terms of especially knowing the contracts that they enter into, and also whether there are any possibilities for appropriate recourse in the case of breach in the contracts that they enter into. So that's why it is important for the Islamic financial system to have a specific regulations in order to protect the interests of investment account holders. Yeah? So if you see the contract of mudarabah, so majority, I think a big portion of Islamic financial institution deposits are structured using the mudarabah contracts. Yeah, so that's why it is important for Islamic financial institution to cater these needs. The third rationale why Islamic financial systems are in need of specific regulations is in order to ensure the compliance with Sharia. So to illustrate the importance of Sharia compliance risk, Islamic financial institutions are prohibited from recognizing as profits any income derived from transactions that do not comply with Sharia tenets or the Sharia principles. So such tainted income has to be screened and then channeled to charity if there is any income which are not comply to the Sharia principles. In jurisdictions where the legal systems manage to harmoniously accommodate man-made laws with the divine Sharia rules and principles, so the public would have stronger confidence in the role of financial regulators and the courts. So in recent years, the establishment of Sharia supervisory body that can provide assurance that the strategic direction, formulation of policies and conduct of financial transactions of IFIs are in compliance with the Sharia rules and principles have become an important aspect of instilling the public confidence. The fourth rationale mentioned by Chakrahan theory for Islamic financial systems to have a specific regulations is in order to support, the rationale is to support the integration of Islamic financial institutions within the Islamic financial or international financial system. So today the Islamic finance has evolved into a viable and competitive components of the international financial system. So following the global financial crisis, discussions have increasingly turned to the prospects of the potential role and relevance of Islamic finance in contributing to the global financial stability and at the same time for the overall economic growth. So active roles are expected from the Islamic financial system to contribute to the growth of the global economic. And it is expected that globalization, especially observed in the form of participation of Islamic financial institutions, the financing of international trade and international payments, would expedite the integration of Islamic financial institutions into the international financial system. However, the increasing exposure of IFIs to the international financial system may bring along its own challenges.